Today I want to talk about some signs of the end. Now, that's a very popular topic these days. You can't hardly go on the internet at all and not find somebody talking about that. And they talk about a lot of the usual things that you might see in Revelation or Matthew 24, very popular to go there. But I'm going to talk about a few other signs that are not quite as usual, not something perhaps that you've thought about or that you knew about. So I'm going to talk about a few of those. And when I talk about the end, there is no end for humanity. All right. We are eternal beings created in God's image. There's going to be people around forever, either on this earth, in heaven, or the new heavens and the new earth when that comes around. So the end is more or less the end of the age, the end of this current state of our existence. So that's what I mean by the end of this era in human history. So a few of the signs, one of which I'm going to talk about, very popular. Everybody, many of the Bible teachers that are out there will talk about that, and I'll be brief on that one. And that is the reestablishment of Israel. Israel became a nation again after a very long time not being a nation. In 1948, they were dispersed in 70 A.D. So a very long time had gone by, and in 1948, the nation of Israel reappears, and that is something that many Bible teachers have thought about for a long time. When it happened, that was a very big deal. And it was a requirement before the end times could come. So that was very big, and where we find that is in Ezekiel. I'll just because there's a few spots in Ezekiel you can point to, but I'll go to Ezekiel 34 to bring that up. I'm sorry about and starting at verse 12, Ezekiel 34, verse 12, the Lord says, "As a shepherd looks after his scattered flock when he is with them, so will I look after my sheep. I will rescue them from all the places where they were scattered on a day of clouds and darkness. I will bring them out from the nations and gather them from the countries, and I will bring them into their own land. I will pasture them on the mountains of Israel, in the ravines, and in all the settlements in the land." So they were going to be scattered for a long time. So it's prophesying both that they would be scattered for a long time and also that he would be bringing them back. Very direct prophecy there. But the ones I'm going to mainly focus on is implied prophecy. And what I mean by that, some say indirect prophecy, but what I mean by that is prophecy that for the event to be possible, something that wasn't possible at the time it was written has occurred. And an example of that might be found in Revelation 11 is a good example of this idea. In Revelation 11, it's talking about the two witnesses in their ministry on earth. And Revelation 11, starting at verse 9, he says, "For 3.5 days, men from every people, tribe, language, and nation will gaze on their bodies and refuse them burial. The inhabitants of the earth will gloat over them and will celebrate by sending each other gifts because these two prophets had tormented those who live on the earth." How would the people of the earth, all over the earth, know that they were dead, have the ability to gaze on their bodies from a distance, unless there were global mass communications, internet, television? Now, those words weren't around, obviously, at the time John wrote this, so that would be an important prophecy that before the last times can come, global mass communications would also have to be a thing, which it is in the time that we live in right now. Very important that would happen. Now, obviously, a lot of people didn't really think like that. You know, the Millerites of the 19th century, I mean, there were a lot of things that hadn't happened yet that the Bible talks about that they just kind of ignored, and to their own detriment. I'm not saying that these things are imminent, but obviously that would be a precondition to the end times coming, the tribulational period. So, global mass communications, very important part of the end times. Another one that is talked about, I'm going to try to go through these quickly so that you'll actually take the time to look at this, is found in Amos, the book of Amos. In Amos 9 in the Old Testament, where the Lord says, "Strike the tops of the pillars so that the thresholds shake. Bring them down on the heads of all the people. Those who are left I will kill with the sword. No one will get away. None will escape." And he's talking about the days of judgment. "Though they dig down to the depths of the grave, from there my hand will take them." So whether you die or whether you're tunneling down to get away from God, you're not going to get away from him. Tunneling, very important part of that. And I can also add another twist to that, which I'll do a little bit later. So, tunneling. And today, this is the year is 2016 right now. Today, there are places underground that are as large as cities that people could go and hide. That's really only been in the last century that it's really been like that, where you've had that large of structures underground. "Though they climb up to the heavens, from there I will bring them down." Another precondition would be the age of space travel, the age of man being able to fly. That's only been in the last century that's been available. "Though they hide themselves on the top of Carmel, there I will hunt them down and seize them." You can't go up to a mountain. Mount climbing really hasn't been a big thing until the 20th century. Everest was scaled in the 20th century, first time ever in known human history. And another one here, "Though they hide from me at the bottom of the sea, there I will command the serpent to bite them." So how do we get to the bottom of the sea? Submarines. Those would all be preconditions before the time of the judgment, before the time of the end of this era in human history. Very important. Those are some pretty striking prophecies when you think about them, especially at the time they were written, which was, over probably about 2,600 years ago. So those are striking things as well. And those few that I mentioned, Israel being back in the land of Israel, the fact that we have global mass communications, we have space travel now, we have the ability to go underwater in submarines, we have the ability to tunnel deep and make large structures underground. All of those things have only been possible since the 20th century, really. I mean, the first submarines were back around the Civil War. The very first submarine that we know of was then. But those are all preconditions would have to be there. And you go, okay, well, now we've looked at that. Is there anything that's yet to come? And I think there is something yet to come. Something that hasn't been fulfilled, but people have been talking about for quite a while. But in the last year or so, I mean, especially last summer, last fall, you couldn't go on the internet to a news site and not see somebody talking about the ability to cure death. All right. And that's going to be, I think, the last signpost before we get to that, that tribulational period that leads on into the millennial kingdom of Christ. And is that predicted? Yes, actually it is. And we're going to go to Isaiah 28. And in Isaiah 28, and it's at verse 18, God says to people, "Your covenant with death will be annulled. Your agreement with the grave will not stand. When the overwhelming scourge sweeps by, you will be beaten down by it. So what it seems to be implying is that people have figured out, at least in appearance, a way to cheat death. And why that's so important to actually cheat death is because the wages of sin are death. There are people out there who, for no other real reason, I mean, they would like to live forever. Uh, if they could beat that, they figure they can show that the Bible is not true. I think that might be part of that motivation as well. And, you know, who's going to end up with that ability? It's not going to be the common person, it's going to be the wealthy. They're going to have it first if they don't already have it. Again, there was a lot of talk about things like the singularity, which is melding a human consciousness with machines. There is the discovery of part of what causes ages, at least what causes aging. The shortening of the telomeres as we ourselves divide and redivide over the many years and resupply our bodies. The shortening of the telomeres is what leads to at least the appearance of aging, the wrinkles, etc. So there's a lot of things that are going on. There's has been rumors of people who have taken adult stem cells and have rejuvenated themselves. I haven't seen anything of that, but that certainly could be a possibility as well, the stem cell shortening. So there are a lot of different ways people are looking at to live forever, have their consciences live on forever. Another place that kind of confirms that idea is found in Revelation 9. And what is said here is, and the fifth trumpet had blown, okay, and the locusts have come out of the abyss. And the locusts were told, they were told not to harm the green grass, the grass of the earth, or any plant or tree, but only those who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were not given power to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. And the agony they suffered was like that of the sting of a scorpion when it strikes a man. During those days, men will seek death, but will not find it. They won't even have the ability to kill themselves, apparently, at that particular time, but will not find it. They'll long to die, but death will elude them. So they've done something here, thinking, we've got it licked now, but what it ends up being is something that they probably wish they had never done. So that's the one to watch for in the future, is that. Now my guess is like I said, it's not going to be common knowledge if they haven't already found it, but it will be something that again, that probably will be the last signpost before we go into the tribulational period. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me leave some comments or any questions that you might have on that. And thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.